Wizards of the Coast is extending the One D&D Playtest survey, and get ready to explore a lost corner of Middle-earth.
It'll be the farthest away from home I've ever been.
Wizards of the Coast has quietly extended the deadline for its current One D&D Playtest survey. That's the survey that covers proposed changes to the character origins along with some major rule changes. You may have seen our previous video in which we talked about the changes to the D20 test and critical successes and failures both in and out of combat. Now, no reason was given for the extension, and the timing is a little interesting, as Wizards of the Coast noted that the first One D&D playtest packet had been downloaded more times than the entirety of the D&D Next playtest that preceded 5e. That means a minimum of 175,000 people downloaded the first One D&D playtest, which frankly seems like a lot of folks.
Alright, it's getting crowded in here.
While we don't know why the extension was given, it likely means that we won't see another One D&D playtest until the last week of September at the earliest. Wizards typically doesn't have one playtest survey open while distributing material for a different set of rules. It's just confusing. So if you haven't filled out the survey and have opinions about One D&D, you now have until September 26th.
That's fantastic news.
Moving on, Free League Publishing has announced a new sourcebook for the One Ring, titled Ruins of the Lost Realm. The new book will provide lore masters with detailed descriptions of Eriador, the region between the Shire and Gondor where the One Ring is set. One of the focuses of Ruins of the Lost Realm is the ruined city of Tharbad, an ancient city that was once home to a critical battle between the forces of Sauron and the armies of the Elves and the Númenóreans. Also included in the new book are descriptions of 12 landmarks, which include a mix of sites from The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, and new locations created specifically for the game. Now, Ruins of the Lost Realm is a geographical guide, one that should interest both fans of the One Ring, and really any Lord of the Rings fan. Eriador is a fantastic region that's steeped in Middle-earth history, but was barely touched on in Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, or any other official Tolkien work. Basically, this makes it the perfect place for a One Ring campaign, as it has enough history to intrigue Tolkien fanatics without stepping on the toes of any Tolkien purist who's already smarting about the condensing of the entire Second Age into a few years in Amazon's The Rings of Power.
Skip to the end.
Now, players won't have to wait long to explore the Lone Lands, as Ruins of the Lost Realm will be released this autumn. Now, if you're looking for a simpler role-playing game to scratch your Lord of the Rings itch, you might want to try Potato.
Potatoes?
A One Ring RPG created by Oliver Darkshire. The rules of Potato are simple. You're just a hobbit trying to farm your potatoes while a Dark Lord rampages across the land with his army of orcs. The goal of the game is to generate enough potatoes before either your destiny score reaches 10 and a wizard shows up at your doorstep with some grand quest, or your orc score reaches 10 and orcs show up at your door to eat you. While potatoes are your end goal, you can also use your potato stock to keep your orc score down.
What we need's a few good taters.
After all, a well-aimed potato keeps the orc at bay.
We made this one up.
At the start of each turn, players will roll a d6. Depending on the result, they'll either wind up in the garden, where you tend to generate potatoes and possibly some orcs. You'll hear a knock at the door, where destiny tends to come a-knocking, along with some orcs, or the world will grow a bit more dangerous. Now, each time the world grows a bit more dangerous, players will have to sacrifice more potatoes to kill the orcs lurking outside your garden. Potato is a delightful one-player game where destiny, death, and delicious tubers are just a dice roll away. You can check out Oliver's work over on Twitter. Have you ever used a potato to kill an orc? Let us know in the comments section, and be sure to like this video and subscribe to the character sheet.